just came to me.
Okay, and so we're kicking it off. And this is, I think, episode 4. I think this is episode 4 of the podcast, Full Spectrum Podcast. Thank you for joining me again, Ryan Bowman. I'm the host, Aaron Bean. And so, Ryan, you've been on the podcast. This is your third time out of 4 episodes. I see a trend here. I feel like this is a pattern.
Hey man, keep it going.
I'm still trying to figure this whole thing out. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what we do here in terms of like co-host, host sort of situation. But we were just talking before we got started about what?
The slap heard round the world.
The slap heard around the world. What is that?
When Mr. Will Smith, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, casually jaunted on to the Oscars stage and proceeded to what it seems like physically assault Chris Rock for making a joke about his wife in reference to G.I. Jane.
Allegedly, yes. Allegedly, he did those things.
Yeah, allegedly on live TV.
And what's been your perception of the aftermath and the backlash? And what are you seeing people, how people are reacting?
Hey, yep, those things occurred, but is that really what we should all be talking about at this point? There's quite a lot of other things that are going on that
because some people say like,
attention.
oh yeah, I'm team Will, like he was defending his wife, and that was inappropriate that Chris Rock said that, and I wish men would stand up for women more like that. And then there's people that are like, violence is never the answer. You don't want to set that example, like words are, how you want to go with that. And also it's like it's a very antiquated way of looking at gender dynamics too. Like, oh, he's a man, he has to protect his woman because she's under threat, And then there's the people who believe that this is all a distraction. And it sounded like you were falling into that camp.
I'm not necessarily falling into that camp as much as looking at what really all the obvious options are for what's going on, and then finding out whether I give a shit about any of them. Because again, there's so many other things going on. So it's really sad.
I mean, I can't think of any major other news that's going on in the world. I mean, it's been pretty slow lately.
Yeah, World War III on the precipice. You've got Ukraine.
Yeah.
You've got gas prices that are in, I don't know. That's a whole other subject. I don't think gas prices should go up as technology gets better and it becomes easier and more efficient to make.
Well, but
And
obviously it's not just about technology. There's a lot of politics involved, like
yeah,
politics are the reason why gas prices go up or down. Like countries are all getting along and things are easy peasy. Well, guess what? Gas is pretty cheap. All of a sudden there gets to be a little tension in the world and things start to tighten up,
you see how the core root there is like that whole process of greedy people like hoarding resources. If you got rid of that, then you wouldn't have tension, and there'd be no reason really.
So if you didn't have preppers that were like hoarding all the MREs and the meals in a bag and all the potable water, those people, that's the reason why there's global tension.
I would venture to say that's where I live, in the reality of my day to day.
I think it's way more complicated than that. I mean, you're talking about geopolitics, like.
Oh, geopolitics aside, there are people that can pay governments to take down bridges just to drive their yacht through them. So, and he does it in a country, he's just a regular human being. And then another human being just shooting himself off into space, and another one going,
all 3 of them went to space.
So like governments, and I'm not foolish enough to assume that everybody's money is posted honestly on the Forbes list. So I don't even assume that Elon Musk is remotely the richest man on earth.
Here's one thought on that thing about them going up to space, right? Like if we see NASA, like an official government agency send a rocket up into space with people, we're like, yeah, that's great. What a great use of public resources. Whoa. And then a private company spends their own private money to do the same thing and like expand and grow the technology and like reach new layers of complexity in terms of what we can achieve outside of the earth. People are like, oh wow, what a fucking joke, like who fucking cares, like, oh good, you guys went on a dick measuring contest to get up to space. Like if this was the government doing this, we would all applaud it, you know?
That's a big part of the idea of great marketing. And also at the same time, I look at it and agree with you. The government's better at it, the marketing behind it, because really they don't, I don't see how it's, I mean, I'm a big fan of Elon Musk and what they're doing technologically. It's advancing us. It's preparing us for a infinite, like a probability that is so likely to end humanity, because the history that we know of the geology on the planet and different extinction periods, the likelihood of something like that happening on this one planet is very high. So to the idea of
Talking about a natural extinction.
yeah, just by like meteor, global climate change, some sort of thing, or World War III, nuclear fallout. Those things are all probabilities that are likely one eventually will happen. So why wouldn't we want to disseminate another of a infinite amount of planets and start to do that? And vice versa, being like the technology we get off of it saves lives, extends lives, helps make a more sustainable planet because of solar infusions and building batteries to withstand those things.
Well, not to mention, with Starlink, with his other company that provides the satellite internet anywhere in the world, they sent all these terminals to Ukraine right now, which is fighting this brutal, nasty war on their own home turf. And, when your telecom goes out because there's bombing everywhere, and then all of a sudden you get this reliable, like movable, portable, anywhere you want Wi-Fi, like that's enabled their drone program to really be functional outside of just their core headquarters. They've been able to like actually coordinate while they're going out on missions beyond like where their central hub is. It's crucial. And that's a huge like positive effect that maybe he's making a profit on it, but I doubt it, it's great PR.
But the PR, yeah, it's great PR if people end up hearing it, but you don't hear the media talking about that. They're talking about the fact that he doesn't pay taxes. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
This is where I get into that battle, because, some people see me as a liberal and some people see me as whatever, but like, I don't think that you need to tax the rich until you can trust the government to do what they do better with the money they have. When they're spending so much money on the military industrial complex and doing what they do economically, I don't trust them with my money. I would much rather have someone doing exactly what Elon's doing or Mark Cuban's doing, like by providing that do that as a politician, do what he did for that. They're plenty rich to do it. He just did it. And that was impressive to me. That's why I'm a big fan of the idea of him running.
The government can do things like that when they want to. Like if you look back in the 60s with the Apollo programs, like they had a will and they made it happen in a remarkable expansion of our technological capabilities in like a 5-year period, and they can do it again. But it's just been like mismanaged, it seems, in the last several decades because we haven't made any progress. Like maybe it's a lack of funding, maybe it's a lack of central vision, I don't know, but like I don't feel like we've seen any meaningful advancements in the space arena from the government agencies. It's all been private.
Exactly. And I think that's because at the time when we were doing those things and just previous, it was the government who was doing that. And then they like outsourced shit and tried to like sell franchises of different parts of itself, like harvested its organs. It was like like Power Rangers, when they come together, it was like the Mega Power Ranger. And then it was like, I'm going to sell this piece, and like just started piecing itself out in a different
That was the Mighty Morphin US government.
Well, yeah, you think about it, like when like Rockefeller and those major people started in the industrial era, and they just made themselves Carnegie, like they made themselves so big in industries of power that they were bigger than governments. And then they started maneuvering government in this industrial capitalistic way.
Elon's bigger than governments, like Elon publicly challenged Vladimir Putin to a fist fight on Twitter.
That was sick.
It's
so, how many people have threatened Vladimir Putin on social media? I mean, it's probably countless people, but Elon Musk.
Nobody cares when they do it. Elon Musk does it.
It's like
You'll never see Joe Biden do that. Like, imagine. Well, you might have seen Trump do that. You never know. Like, he might have tweeted that. But like, if
it was good for his PR, that guy would have done it. But when he was in there, he was a good boy.
The shit.
He's such a good man. I think he's an honest.
Oh well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so he is what he is. He says what he needs to say in order to, it done.
I
And
was hoping we wouldn't have
that's
to talk about Donald Trump. God damn
like,
it.
yeah, either way, we can keep going. I mean, but
So,
I don't.
so Ukraine. Let's talk about
Yeah,
Ukraine. Do
yeah.
you follow it really like religiously, like daily? Are you checking in on all the updates?
No, it sickens me. I don't try to give it that much energy. It's a very basic thing for me. People are Russell Brand did an episode and he was talking about like the whole situation. Hey, and he explained like they're not doing anything illegal, like from a military law standpoint. They're just invading a country. And I'm thinking to myself as a regular human being, right? Nothing illegal. They're committing mass murder
Yeah,
on a
bombing
daily basis.
children's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're committing war crimes for sure. And it's like, at what point does the United States have a moral obligation to step in and involve itself? Because Joe Biden's been very clear. He's saying we're not going in there, we're not putting boots on the ground, we're not invading, we're not, we're just kind of helping the Ukrainians. But at what point do you think the US has a moral obligation to do something?
I personally think that at that time has excessively passed.
Really?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. The United States, I don't trust them with my money. I don't trust them with my lives of my kinfolk. So I'm looking at it from, the United States of America as a corporation. Well, yeah, they're going to sell the war. I mean, I've seen Nicolas Cage in God of War and plenty of other movies that talk about how the military industrial complex makes its money and how the government people that established in this country as our politicians, Joe Biden, et cetera, are all established in different key metrics financially that benefit from it. So it makes it really, difficult to trust either side. And therefore, my thoughts on it is if the United States should promote war till it's blue in the face because it's all about money and it wants to, continue to hoard money and send it to the rich people. While
but I mean, probably not wrong on most of those points.
Yeah.
Like,
so
what do you see this doing to like I think about like the world order, right? So Ray Dalio has a book, How to Deal with the Changing World Order. And I've listened to part of it. It's really like very technical and very dense. So it's kind of a tough listen, but since the end of World War II, the United States has been like the top dog culturally, and in terms of military and global influence. And it seemed like for a while, China was kind of taking over, at least for, a large segment of, like global trade and whatnot. But do you see that this conflict in Ukraine is going to change things for the world order in terms of the superpowers?
Man, no. I mean, if you're thinking about it like the superpowers, like the United States, Russia, and countries, yes, I think that they'll change the way the game looks to keep the competitive edge for patriotism as a divisive line between groups of us, establishing ourselves as pro this or pro that. But the powers that be, the world powers, the people that we talked about earlier, that rich family line, which has expanded into other rich heritages, but no, actually, I think that none of that's going to change. I think the kings of that are the kings of that, the queens, etc., and they have a hierarchy built within that system, and it's financially driven. And I think that that's just the way that the system's built capitalistically from the beginning, most likely the industrial age.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you're not very optimistic about things changing in a positive way.
No, that's not true, though. I have a belief in, like we talked about with technology earlier and the benefits, in a positive light. I believe in what Jacques Fresco really pioneered in 1972, Larry King interview. Look it up, Google.
He was the guy with the Unity Project, right? Or Venus Project.
The Venus Project, yeah. He called it, at the time, he called it socio-cyber engineering. Mm-hmm. So he was taking like technology, the things that we established in like the 60 for the moon and all that advanced technology that we have, and putting it to use in a way to sustain life. And the core purpose of technology is to improve the environment and humanity's existence individually. So we all would share in abundance. There wouldn't be like a money, and like we would figure out the problem, like with food. Very easy example. We have all this food, but we waste over 50% of the food due to, planned obsolescence. It doesn't look good. It's not the right type of produce. We just can't get it from point A to point B because it's going to rot and stuff like that. Logistics issues, basic mathematical logistics issues. And we have trains in China that go 350 miles an hour that easily could take care of that logistics issue in our country alone, getting things from point A to point B in a refrigerated status, etc. So we don't employ that in our industrial, build back better. We're not doing high speed, trains that are like that and building a new railroad. Why not? That doesn't make no goddamn sense, does it? Because it's not
Are you getting
financial.
attacked right now, by the way?
Yes, by a
I
husky.
don't want to interrupt you because you're on a roll here, but like, are you okay?
Yeah, she's a year and a half old, and I've had her for 48 hours.
Okay, well, she's comfortable with you, I guess. She's
Yeah. Just in order to do what I gotta do, I gotta be a little bit more loud than I am right now. Hey, I know you've been up here sitting down with me for like the whole time, but we're gonna watch this. See, here, a little bit of viewership. There
Yeah.
she is. Oh, there she is.
what's her name?
Lily, but she doesn't respond to Lily.
Oh, well,
she just kind of doesn't. She won't even acknowledge her name. It's interesting. It's been that's a whole nother experience that's been over the last few hours.
that's fun, man.
Thank you, babe.
So I think we got sidetracked there.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all good. No, it's all good. I wanted to go back to this. I listened to this podcast from, I think, the New York Times. It was the Daily, I want to say. And it was called like, what do the Russians think of what's going on in Ukraine? And it was really sad because there was this guy who is a Russian living in Ukraine, in Kiev, with his family. And he was, staying at home. They were sheltered and the bombs were falling. They, things were getting blown up. And he realized, he's like, I haven't talked to my dad yet. My dad that lives in Russia. He's like Russian, lives in Russia. And he calls his dad and he's like, hey, Dad, here's what's going on. I'm okay, though. And his dad goes, no, I mean, that's not what's happening. No, it's a peacekeeping mission. Yeah, the Russian soldiers are there to liberate the Ukrainians from the Nazis. And he's like, no, Dad, like there's bombs falling around my neighborhood. Like we're being attacked, like the Russian army is invading us. And his dad is like, no, that's lies. You're being lied to. And it was his dad. And his dad didn't believe the son, like what his lived experience was. And it's like, this made me think of with Americans and with QAnon and with this big QAnon cult that people will literally alienate themselves from their family members because they're so fervently attached to this idea. And they are totally dogmatic and refusing to open their mind even a little bit. It's like, how did we get here? Right?
We have a lot of books that told us we were going to get here. George Orwell, Brave New World. I mean, different epic novels and artists that kind of gave us a forewarning, like The Simpsons. Everything that comes out of that thing is, they're amazing. But it's also, I think it all goes back to that core thing we talked about with the government. There's people that know we're a smart species, and when applied and given the tools and the information in book or digitally these days, when given that information, you can advance. And I think there's a group of people that have hoarded ways to manipulate. And that whole thing with America, where we think it's one way, well, there's nothing saying that it's not just as possible that they absolutely believe that it's that way and that we're wrong, i.e. Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, so many other times, Vietnam. Okay, so we've been that person. So there's no way that we can honestly sit here and say that they can't be that person too, or that they're wrong.
On a different scale, it's like to say that, like, there's people that say like this whole thing in Ukraine is like a setup and it's the Russians aren't even involved. This one guy online was saying there's no even Russians in Ukraine right now. It's the Ukrainians in a civil war and they're trying to blame it on Russia. It's like,
that's pretty good.
What are you talking about? Like,
that's good.
It's like, bro, what are you smoking? I think this is a very clear example of what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah,
Right.
who
I think it's
controls the
very,
narrative?
yeah, like I don't think there's any chance that in 20 years we're going to look back and say like, dang, actually the Ukrainians were the bad guys. We should have been on the Russian side the whole time, like we did that with all these other countries that we had invaded, and tried to prop up a new regime and install democracy. Like that didn't work. Regime building doesn't work, and that's why we shouldn't do it there in Ukraine. But we can say for sure that, like, if it came down to it, we would be on the side of Ukraine because they're in their own country and Russia is in their country. It's very clear who the aggressor is.
That may be true, and I can understand that in terms of the physical aggression. And trust me, I stand with the people of Ukraine. I want that to be very, very clear. They are the people being assaulted. And to his question, that could be taken as I agree, but it's not necessarily that way. I see that both sides of this conflict, it's more complex. Ukraine is being, fed weapons of war to defend itself by the very people that Russia says they're scared of joining that area, because they didn't want Ukraine to join NATO is one of the theories as to what was going on. And it could have been compiled. All those theories could actually be a list of why he was like, this is way too many reasons, So you look at that and it's okay. So they're, to the Russians, rightfully taking back their land that they historically feel that they have rights to, or they're, trying to seize, who knows what right, because obviously murdering people is internationally okay. So, you look at it as maybe they're just trying to get resources because there is an abundant amount of resources there in a country that is losing money financially, that needs to be able to feed its own people, let alone control the food so that they can propagate themselves inside of this economic world system and try to restore their glory. Who knows? There are so many reasons why.
I think it was the NATO thing. I think because Putin said it very clearly multiple times, like, we are not going to have a NATO country on our border, like it's not going to happen. And then, there's theories out there that we could have quashed this all and not even been in this position if the UK or the US and NATO and everybody had been like, hey, just to be clear, Ukraine is not going to be in NATO. Right. But Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, made it ambiguous. He was like, well, it's always on the table, NATO is always open to expansion. And then that made Russia nervous. Right. And it's really sad because most of the Russians, like 83% of them, are pro-Putin, and granted, who knows how reliable those polls are because of, people's reticence to be honest. Like, that's, speaking of those dystopian novels, that's one of those things where in Brave New World, nobody would be, or no, it was in 1984, actually. It was in 1984, I think. It was like nobody would be honest. Everybody would just like lie about it and just kind of like look the other way.
Double think. They would, it was kind of like cognitive dissonance, in a way. Like knowing the truth just would alter their reality to such a degree that it would fracture. And I think you get metaphoric narrative for that in some theater when you look at like the Spotless Mind and What Dreams May Come, sort of things where you're fragmented by something so emotionally that you live in two separate realities and you can only be in one at a time.
Or like Memento.
Yeah, exactly. Like they can't cope with it, so they just ignore it. Like you see it with the boomers and the whole like climate change and it's a hoax and everything's a damn hoax. Yeah. Or you've got your conspiracy theories and people that don't think we landed on the moon. No matter how much evidence you give them, it won't matter. And that's okay. You got to be in a free world. You got to let people do that. I guess I'm not super big fan of it, but I might want to like be safe enough to find a place where I don't have to be around those people.
Yeah.
If that means I can go with Elon to Mars and there won't be any people like that, that kind of looks enticing. If there's some green and some snow, I need some mountains to shred.
I don't think you're going to find that in Mars. No, it's going to be a harsh existence. I think those early settlers are really going to be regretting their decision. Just like, fuck, why did I come up here?
information and technology advancing at warp speed could change that perspective just as fast as we thought the brick phone was the shit on Saved by the
Yeah,
Bell.
we'll be dead though, so it's like whatever. Hope my grandkids have fun on Mars, but whatever. It's like
I hope we do more than Mars. I hope that the success of Mars builds like kind of like the inspiration for other people to be like, oh, they can do it on Mars. Cool. Then this is an idea, and starts taking and just
there's
shooting off
just
seeds
no
of
other
possibility.
habitable planets. You know, they're looking for these planets in the Goldilocks zone with these high powered like the James Webb Telescope, and it's like they still haven't found one. You know, they haven't found a really good candidate that's anywhere near to being close enough to be reachable. You know, like
Alpha, well, reachable. That's the key
that's
there.
the thing is like even Andromeda, the closest galaxy is like 1,000 light years away. Like, good luck, you know. Bye.
The possibility of developing that technology at a fast pace is not necessarily as far-fetched as one might think when you look at the state of our technological status.
I think it's all relative. Like in 100 years, maybe.
We're building fusion reactors that are hotter than the sun in China. We've got microchips that are absolutely insane. Elon Musk sending rockets that are the size of the Empire State Building out of the fucking solar system, out of the atmosphere, and that stuff happening within a mere 3-4 years. I watched the entire process of him shooting that first one up and figuring out how to land it, and he did it within 6 months.
Yeah. Well, yeah, his engineers did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you for that. Then I was totally misspoken on that. You're right. What they created, that teamwork.
Like he's good at cracking the whip and like having the vision and leading the company. Like he's great at that, you know, like,
yeah.
And he's a smart guy. He's obviously, I bet he could do it himself, the engineering work, but I'm just sure he's so busy with running the company. He doesn't have time to actually sit down with pen and paper, you know?
I actually think he would, in all serious honesty. They asked him for the money for the food situation. Pull that. He has done the thing with Ukraine with the satellites. His entire mission originally, like when he was a kid, he had PayPal. He sold PayPal, made some money, and then started up his dreams, SpaceX and Tesla. And he went down to almost being broke before they took off because he didn't want to take money from other people because it was a far-fetched idea. And he proved it. Then he proved it. Then he profited. It's not about him actually making the money. It's about what he's doing to advance humanity. He's got a whole different thought. That's why he sold his house. Once he realized he needed more funding, sold all his personal possessions, had a moment of consciousness that was like, I'm all in on helping humanity. And he went to it. Now he lives in a tiny home that he rents from SpaceX. So his money goes to him, then goes back to SpaceX. It's smart. It goes right back to his project because he's trying to seriously help keep humanity in the solar system for all time.
Well, I mean, why not out of the solar system if we can, you know, shit.
Well, yeah. I think the technology could rapidly, like way faster than what we've seen. I think it's technology and stuff has been on this type of curve, and we're about to hit like that point where it's going to be so exponential we can't even fathom it, and we are going to hit that mind breaking point, and only some people are going to be able to take it, and that might be why the powers that be hamper it down a little bit every once in a while and make an excuse like, oh, we came up with this to prevent war, and that's why you look at Ukraine.
Maybe we're not ready for it yet.
Maybe. I think that that's not necessarily someone else's decision, kind of like my first time, you know. That was my decision and I loved owning it, you know, my body, my choice. Like, and I think of the knowledge of the human existence as a collective thing, kind of how you brought up with Elon Musk. Elon Musk didn't do that. That was a large group of people that learned from other people, that learned from other people. And that chain and connectivity for people, it's not about the one person that's the face of the organization. We have to be able to move past that pyramid mentality that made pharaohs and created this whole hierarchy system and get away from that. And there's so many different, you know, historical references. That was just the symbol I came up with. Okay. But you know, looking at it from a, you know, bottom to top, they sit on top of the masses and they do all the work and get no credit. Like you could take our data. If you understand how that works, we're giving our data, we're giving all of this precious stuff to them and we're getting nothing for it. In fact, we're paying for it in return. We're giving them all this precious gold that is ourselves and our perspective and our knowledge of things so they can develop products, improve things off of our choices. And all of this stuff is readily available. They could share that with everybody. Every small business owner would instantly be able to access what do people want, and boom, they would know and they would be able to find it. And it would make this system that we
And
have.
and isn't that in a sense for our benefit? I mean, nowadays, like when you get an Instagram ad, how many times have you seen an Instagram ad lately and you're like, dang, I actually kind of want that. Like it's like they're learning, they're very targeted now. And when you're talking with your friend and you're like, hey, I'm thinking about buying a longboard. And then lo and behold, you start seeing
A
advertisements.
longboard.
You know what? It's a little creepy. Yes, a little big brother, a little big eye in the sky, but it's also a lot of convenience, like it's making things easy.
Yeah. It does make things easy and lulls you into a place where you feel like you should buy in to that program because it makes it easy and that you think it's good for you in the long run. But look where that whole idea of buying more things to make it easy has gotten us. That's the problem.
Look
Like
at all my
it's not,
trinkets. Look at
yeah,
all my stuff.
yeah, look at all my stuff while the world burns. Blah. So that's fine and dandy, but I think part of being a human and being an animal is that survival, like, and balancing those things and not being like, oh, I've got it easy, but I gotta like grade it out a little bit for these months and figure out where I gotta get my nuts and my berries, to do this thing and
What?
be a little bit more in tune with what's around you. And we have not been, so it leaves us very vulnerable in an evolutionary way. But I also think that it's simultaneously also moving with humanity, technology, and nature are coming to a point where they need to intersect.
So we can become androids. We can have chips implanted in our bodies. Are you for Bill Gates putting a chip in my body?
Not Bill Gates. He hasn't put out any different technology that said that was what they're going to do.
How
But
about Elon
Elon
Musk?
Musk,
Can Elon
exactly.
Musk put a chip in my body?
I would think that it would be more an option since it's a private industry and you can choose to do it.
Well, if I do Bill Gates's chip, I can have Microsoft Office.
Yeah, well, it's also mandated with the vaccine, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so you don't get a choice. You have to get it because you're going to lose your job.
Okay.
Well, that's why my wife got it. Like she had to get it, otherwise she was as a healthcare provider, she would have lost her job, and that would have.
A lot of people did that. A lot of people didn't want to, but had to. Yeah.
I chose not to because I am a financial bum. But I got some other entrepreneurial things that I'm endeavored in.
Well, can't you go back to it now?
What, massage?
Yeah.
No, at this point, no. I don't want to personally.
Oh.
I am not inspired and or care to work on people for certain reasons. It's detrimental to my mental well-being, and I want to put my focus and energy into other things, not just like trying to pay the bills like we've been talking about. Like I'm trying to figure out a way to be my unique self and profit within this system to a point where I can rebuild a new system, much like the Venus Project, but probably adapted in a way. Like they've kind of become the appearance of them is they become too culty. And I don't think that they've taken advantage of the idea of proper marketing and building out of their vision. They have some genius people there. Do not get me wrong. I am pond scum to the likes of the people that are involved there. When it comes
I need
to
self-denigrate.
yeah, but like, I was just talking about like the level of food chain. Like it's just a height thing and I didn't want to give numbers. But so I'm looking at it
You're on
like
the bottom of the totem pole.
yeah, basically.
If I can culturally appropriate.
Go ahead. I like it. It's a measuring stick. It's not necessarily an insult. But I look at it like they are really smart and they got some people, but their marketing on it isn't, they're not Disneyland. They're not getting funded to attract people to a place where, hey, look, here's this wonderful place where we have golf courses and everything's going to come to you, and everyone here that lives
Golf
here.
courses.
Yeah, they're built like Rick. Have you ever seen you got to see the video, man.
I've seen a little bit. It was like a decade ago too. It was like one of those nights I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
Watch the whole thing. It's really impressive. He was a genius, and he has the credentials and engineering stuff to back it up for days. But he devoted his life to this intentionally, and
Okay, so how
um,
about this? If this was really the way to go, like, as close to what we can have is a utopia, right? Uh how would why would that not catch on? Why would that not work?
oh well, one, like I said, the powers that be can't profit from it. You look at a previous example in history at a same point when hemp was basically tampered down in 1937 and they started pushing against it. That's when Rockefeller, Carnegie, and them and Ford had figured out how to build a car completely out of hemp that ran out of hemp, carbon fiber. It was lighter, it was more efficient, got better gas mileage, those things. And you have the Carnegies and Rockefellers and the people that own the oil, steel industries that are like, no, 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 no. That's an endless sustainable product that can produce this thing. But if we break it into pieces and make it resource heavy, we can charge more and we can create this industry where those individuals thrive, as opposed to humanity focused decision would have been to go with the sustainable carbon fiber model. And we would have had electric cars a long time ago. And these decisions moving forward would have been extensive. We had electric cars in 1912. I mean, just focus on that instead of worrying about profits, focus on advancements and what's going to be beneficial in the long run. The idea behind profits has driven industry for so long, we don't even really understand it.
My question is this: when it comes to like one of these societies that's supposed to be perfect and there's no crime because there's no greed and there's no need for like theft and stuff like that, but like excuse me, that doesn't explain how like in certain affluent societies like ours there are people who don't need things but steal them, and there's people that act in ways that we would all agree would not be in accordance with our social contract. Like most of us have this belief that you drive down the road and you mind your business and you don't mess with somebody else, and if you don't cut people off in traffic and whatnot. But there's certain people that just don't seem to agree with that social contract, and they're like, I don't want it, I'm gonna act crazy, I'm gonna throw food at the lady at Walmart, I'm gonna kick this hobo, I'm gonna do all these crazy things. It's like, how do we stop that? If that, is that ever going to go away?
I think in the society, it's actually Jacques actually has a whole section on that. He spent a long time. He's got a lot of angles, but people are a product of their environment, and what happens in their environment structures them and changes how they perceive things and their reactions, and they build coping mechanisms. They learn to speak. These things happen through your environment and where you're at. So I think it's more complex than we give it credit, and the issues that are happening with these people, they've grown up in a society surrounded by these things being acceptable, you know and seeing when someone's having a bad day, or things are down, what do? We go get drunk, we have a drink, we do this. Media pushes it, the Hollywood pushes it, your fucking history pushes it with your bad drunk fathers and Native Americans who are basically killing themselves still. It makes no sense. And those type of things, that's what we're given. Those are our coping mechanisms. Go smoke pipe and drink whiskey. Fuck, okay, cool. That's what people do. They resort to these things when things are difficult. And today's society is obviously difficult. Our suicide numbers are up, our addiction numbers are up, our life expectancy is going backwards. There's so many things going on right now that it's a little threatening.
Why though? Like, why are we experiencing this? We have the technology, we have the affluent, we have the money. Like, where are things breaking down? Because it's like, if this is like the beginning, the fraying of the edges of the fabric of the sweater, that eventually like the structure just kind of falls apart, right. It starts as kids who are willing to like record themselves on TikTok throwing a drink in somebody's face for clout. We start there, and then we work up to, there's no respect for personal property, and people are just feel comfortable shoplifting and they don't care and they have no shame. And then at what point does it really devolve into like real social anarchy?
Like I was saying with the program, I got on a tangent, I guess. But with the program that Jacques puts in place, when you don't have to worry about where your food's coming from, you don't have to worry about fresh water, clean healthcare. Healthcare is paid for. You don't have to worry about, your house burning down because we have technology to build buildings out of non-flammable material that is completely sustainable. When you have these things and you can break down the economics of society and throw them away and be like, okay, I don't need this structure. This doesn't help me. We have all those. We have plenty of resources. We have abundance of the resources to execute this type of structure. Yet it's a logistics. It's whether in the logistics to me is because people are hoarding it. That they're like, oh well, and kind of like why Russia bring all this together. Why Russia might need to be going into Ukraine is for those resources, or why countries go into the Middle East because of oil or opioids or things of that nature. That type of influence really drives a lot of things.
Yeah, but I still think that doesn't explain it because it's kind of an explanation of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's like the argument saying, oh, they've got these needs taken care of, so they're not gonna rob people, they're not gonna be greedy, they're not gonna do all this. We'll live in harmony. But if that was true, then why would we see the people who are rich and affluent and have comfortable lives today doing some of the more despicable shit? Like when you hear about Prince Philip or whatever, the British prince who is like had a bunch of, I think he had kitty porn or something like that, or he was caught like with young girls. It's like
he was part of the Epstein stuff.
Yeah, like dude had everything he had ever wanted, and maybe that's why he got to where he got. But it's like if we just had a thing where everybody had all their needs taken care of, like in his community, like in his social group, in his world, everything was taken care of, and yet he still did sick shit. Like he had no reason to. He could have just been a decent person and been like, cool, I'm set. Like I have it made. I don't have to do anything. I just have to go to parties the rest of my life. I just have to not bang a teenager. I just can't. But he fucking had to do it because he's a piece of shit, and it's like, even in the Venus Project, I feel like sometimes people are just pieces of shit, no matter what.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that note, but to the point of the Venus Project is like, there's reasons that people have mental issues of that nature, and they usually break down to triggers in life that some people won't see because they haven't been in those shoes. Now, if you were to put me in a shoe like that, I am not saying that I would do anything this man would do, but I can see like maybe he sees his surroundings and he realizes on some level that he's part of a piece of shit society, so he acts like a piece of shit. Because A, it's acceptable. I am this.
Do you think that's a valid excuse though?
No, it's I don't know of excuse. Like we're all living this life. And again, I could be seeing things wrong. But from where I'm sitting in my perspective, I much rather see the option of going forward with helping people and trying to systemically change something over time to make a change, as opposed to stick with something I know isn't working and I know the situation
That's
it's
the thing.
creating.
You're a good person. Not everybody is a good person.
Not yet.
Well, I love the optimism, I have to say. I really do. I think it's nice to think that, like, gosh, in 150 years, we're just going to be like arm in arm, running through fields and shit, like Sound of Music. But like, I don't think nothing in history has indicated that that's what we're getting better in terms of war and cutting each other's guts out. But I mean, like,
it's worse. It's what we do today is worse. It's massive. It's hidden. Like
you
they
lived
don't
in the dark
no
ages.
honor.
You were in constant fear of death. Like death was around the corner all the time. We are very comfortable.
It's a completely different scenario, first of all, and it's not necessarily because they feed it to us through fear on everything they post. You have to be afraid of the war. You have to be afraid that you're going to make it. You're going to have to be afraid of your neighbor. You're going to have to be afraid of the people that are, going to lose their mind because there's going to be somebody that's crazy, when in reality, those situations, the majority of them are survival choices. Like, fuck, man, people was dude needed to make money, or he needed to buy a
that
new
sounds really dire. I don't
car.
think it's that dire yet. It's not like there's people in this country out there every day making life or death choices. Like, oh, if I don't eat today, I'm gonna die. Like
Oh yeah, there is. Yep. That you have you worked at the food bank? Have you seen some of those people?
No,
I
I mean,
saw I saw a 9-year-old boy grab a bag of grab a big old box of food, more than he could carry, and I helped him walk 2 blocks before I had to go back and volunteer, and I cried. Like and I was like, how much farther you got to go? And he's like, a few blocks down by like the lake, and I'm like, what? This is
that's kind of my
ridiculous.
point, though. In this country, we have that. We have food banks. Like in a lot of countries, they don't.
Yeah,
Like
you're right. You're right. But that to me is like, oh well, we're not as bad when we have the option to be like, oh, that doesn't exist.
I think
And
America
it's our
has
choice.
more of a fat problem than a skinny problem. If we're being,
Exactly. And yet we still have homeless, starving veterans that literally die of starvation. There are
yeah,
statistics to back all this up. People die of starvation
I'm
in
sure.
this
Yes,
country
some do. I'm
all the
not
time.
saying that zero people starve to death in the United States. Like that's not technically possible, right? Of course, there's at least some, right? Yeah, no doubt. But the problem, I don't think their problem is like starvation. It's not like, oh, if I just had a cheeseburger, I'd be fine, right? Their problem is housing. Their problem is mental health. Their problem is medical health and their support that they receive or don't receive, and their problem is alienation from society. Like for a lot of them with PTSD, it's tough to reacclimate.
Yeah, I'm looking at some stats here, and it says 3.1 million children under 5 each year die of starvation.
In the United States,
Yep, in just the United
that's
States.
wait, how many? 3 million a year?
3.1 million.
That must be a typo or something. Like there's no way that a 1% of the country's population dies every year of starvation. No way.
Undernutrition, this does extend it a little bit variably, but it's still up the same alley. Undernutrition is a contributory factor in the death of 3.1 million children under 5 every year. That's just under 5. And that is coming from,
Yeah, it said a contributory factor, not necessarily like the cause of death.
yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, okay. If we want to hash it out and be straight, yeah, it's
You
the
were trying to
contribute.
sneak that one past me. I ain't gonna let that
I
one.
don't think that's sneaking. I think it was being a little more logical. But if you want to break it down, contributory factor. Okay, so we're talking about somebody isn't getting access to healthcare, or somebody that can take their blood sugar and find out what their nutrition needs are, and taking the abundance of it, putting a package together and helping them survive. We have the knowledge. It's been given to us by millions of other people through a lineage, and we're not sharing it. We're hoarding it. Just like the Native Americans say, how can you own the land? How can you own the water? It's when you're born on this earth as a human being, it is all inherently yours, and we should be sharing it. It's the only way for us to propagate in a way that doesn't negatively impact the world, because then
Well,
we all share in
I'm
its
gonna start singing
prosperity.
"Kumbaya" right now.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it sounds good. Like, trust me, I would love for that to be the case, but gosh, I just don't see it.
What happened if you're on an island with 5 people? I
You
mean,
get
we
hungry enough, and that person next to you looks like a big pork chop. I'm just saying,
I know I'm with Gandhi. I'm starving myself. So
No, no. If you and I were stuck on a desert island about day 5, you'd be thinking like, I think he's got at least like 60 pounds of meat on him.
no.
Well, maybe you'd go vegan. I don't know. You'd find some leaves that you could eat.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm not worried about the meat. Like, I would figure it out. Like, I wouldn't. That wouldn't be an option to me personally. I would
I
be.
don't know. You never know. You never know until you're in the situation. Look at the Donner Party. I bet they didn't go out that day thinking like, yeah, I would eat my sister. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people get intercourse with animals. I don't see myself doing that
Whoa,
either.
whoa, this is a
That's a
family
decision.
show. This is a family show. Okay. We'll talk about cannibalism. We're not going to talk about that. Okay.
Yeah, right. But like, people get to make their own decisions, and I'm not going to do that one. And whatever the Dahmer party would. Me personally, I feel that,
All right. You better not get stuck on an island with me then.
hell no. I'm good.
Chop, chop. You a pork chop.
I'm not a pork chop. I'm not plump enough, but I am getting there. Age is coming.
Oh, I hear you there. I hear you there. Hey, so you and I live in the same city,
Yeah.
Bellingham. I was born here. You moved here, but you've lived here a long enough time to have seen the city change. Are you noticing a big change in the city in Bellingham over the last couple of years?
The Bellingham I moved to is long past. I mean, everything changes with time, but like technology is rapidly changing in Bellingham. I think the small town appeal is gone. COVID was a final blow to it. The changeover hasn't even happened yet, but you see all the empty buildings. I think those are going to be swooped up by corporate connected people, or people that are going to just start up a local, like one that's sponsored by a corporate entity.
A local
Those are,
what?
like you'll see down like the donut shop, Rocket Donuts gets replaced with this, weird Californian sandwich shop that's all like,
What
hippie
is
and
it?
rich. It's for stoners. I think it's called
What are you
yeah,
complaining about?
I'm not a fan of
They're
that.
hitting your demographic, bro.
I'm not a fan of that dietary choice.
What
And
it,
I
like?
am,
What is it?
well, it's mostly like food that's just slathered with like nacho cheese sauce, and
Oh,
it's
it's not healthy.
total. No, it's completely the wrong direction. And again, like what we know, like, yeah, they're selling us that's not, we know that's not good for you in a healthful way. So why is that like what's taking over like the prime selection when the choice is obvious? We shouldn't even, to me, that type of stuff shouldn't, we know better than to
I mean, we're
feed people
gluttons.
McDonald's.
I mean,
Yeah.
like America, that's America's like final sin, you know. If it was one of the seven sins, it was like we would be gluttony, you know,
Yep.
America. That's it, like more.
Wally.
Yeah, shoot. Like you talk about 1984 and Brave New World, like Wally is the dystopian like fiction movie. Well, non-fiction movie, maybe. We'll
Yeah.
see.
I hope it's not done by the same guy that did The Simpsons.
Why?
Because then it would be the future because they predict everything.
Oh well, yeah. Yeah, that's become a running gag. So, yeah, I mean, I saw an article the other day that said in Bellingham, Grand Theft auto theft is up over 300% this year over last year. Like, it's on track to be anyway. Anyway, like there were more auto thefts in the first quarter of 2022 than there were in the entire year of 2020. Because like through COVID 2021, there were a lot of administrative choices made with the jail and the sheriff's department and their methods of apprehending and prosecuting, and the trials were taking forever. Trials were suspended, so if somebody got arrested and charged, they'd be released, and then it might be months and months before they even see trial. People weren't getting booked in jail. They weren't patrolling, and they were understaffed, because defunding or whatever. And then we're seeing this huge uptick in incidents like that, not just auto theft, but all kinds of theft. I saw an article. Yeah, it was an article the other day on the Bellingham Herald in a park, and like the one on Squalicum Parkway. This guy it was called a large cutting utensil, like a machete basically, and was chasing families around, this family with a little 1-year-old baby, saying he was going to rape and kill them. And like this went on for a while before the cops were able to find him, like hours later. And shit like that is happening so much more often these days. And it just, like you said, it's kind of lost that small town charm, and it's like we have some really serious like big city problems here in a small city.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely making a threshold breaking point just by the numbers, but also by the appeal and what's being established here from a corporate level and the people that are buying houses. I mean, you probably see it. There's a lot of outside money coming into Bellingham right now,
Yeah.
and that is what is doing it. Yeah, it helps that outside money bring us that California dough, baby, but it's going to bring that California show, and I don't want it to necessarily be what Bellingham's about. One is outpricing people like myself who are, trying to do the good old, American hustle. And, you can't financially make it unless you're making over $100 an hour. If you really want to make it, like have my own, I got my house paid, like we're up around 40, house paid for, ready to go on vacations. I got my own private like drone jet that I purchased from Tesla that's going to come out in 4 years. What's up with that? I use the Tesla truck's tight. Like if I wanted to go to Mars, I'd buy one of those and they could just shoot me home all the way there in the fucking Tesla.
What the fuck are you talking about? Am I getting shot up in the air in a Cybertruck? I don't
Hey,
think
man,
it's a spaceship, bro.
well, he shot his first car out there. It's circling, it's orbiting the sun.
Yeah, and there's a fucking skeleton inside it.
It's not a person, it's a fake skeleton.
Well, I know, but what that person would look like if they went up there.
I don't know. They'd probably like poof. They'd be like, oh, poof.
Oh, it's a vacuum, so there's low pressure, so they would just like
Yeah.
they like freeze because it's also like negative. It's like
And
at a
nothing's hit the
point
car
out,
yet.
out in the middle of darkness of space. It's like true zero.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no. It's crazy. It wouldn't be far-fetched to think, and if we took our potential and our thoughts and shrunk down the technology like we have a cell phone, we could possibly see in 5 to 10 years us being shot into space in spaceships that size.
This is totally a high conversation. So, but back to the crime in the Bellingham. Have you
Yeah.
personally been a victim of crime?
Oh God, so many times. I grew up in Tacoma.
Well, I mean, while living in Bellingham, like,
I
I know you're from
yeah, like
Compton.
I've been assaulted many times. But in Bellingham, no, but I did live with a guy that murdered his mother and tried to rape his mother. Like seriously.
What?
Yeah, I did. When I lived with him, he hadn't done it yet, but we moved out. It was the first place we moved when we moved to Bellingham. And then we moved out. And, like a year later, like I tried to tell him, I was like, you're in a bad situation here and personal stuff aside. And then, like a year later, we find out that he got high on methamphetamines, thought he was a werewolf, and then thought his mom was a vampire and things went all sideways. And he's actually supposed to be let out of prison on like because they considered him, since he was under the influence of methamphetamines, they considered him that his mind was altered and he wasn't of the right state of mind, and they're going to let him out, which I find that is a understanding of a justice system that doesn't have the results that I think they should have to allow that. But in a
Makes a lot of sense.
society like the Venus Project, it would exist.
How about this? How about we take people who do that and we put them into outer space? Just like in Elon's convertible, like I
Just pick
I don't
a
know.
planet and be like, that's going to be pedophile planet. If you make it there, good
Like
luck.
Australia. Yes. Like
Yeah.
Australia was the
And-
penal colony for England. Like, let's find somewhere new that's probably shitty that we can just move you to. Yeah. Hey, Mars, you guys, have you ever thought about Mars?
Right? We're just going to send our worst there. Nah, I don't believe that. I'm a fan of
That sounds like the origin story for a really good sci-fi novel. Like, it sounds like The Expanse, the TV show The Expanse. It's like in the future, there's a Martian culture that's like humans who had immigrated to Mars, and then there's actually a war with Earth, and stuff happens.
Raised by Wolves, HBO Max.
Sure, I assume that it's
Yep.
relevant. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey,
Super
so you and I were on Zoom a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Making empanadas.
Yes, that was fun.
Yeah, in that class. So what was that experience like for you?
It was great. Interactive cooking with the wife. It was awesome. I mean, we had a hiccup, sometimes our communication breakdown is a little here and there. Don't ever tell your wife, hey, you should whip it this way. Just let her do her thing. If it comes out, it's great. You swear. But it was fine. I had a great time though. It was fun. We had some wine, learned some new tricks, and kind of got a little more brave in the idea of doing doughs and things like that in the kitchen.
It's kind of intimidating.
Well, just anything new like that. You're just like, that's the type of stuff that like I'm interested in. And I wish that like as a group, we could just, that was something you did. Like, hey, we're doing an Italian thing down at this place. And you have a whole bunch of people go down there and you just, hey, we're making dough. We hang out, we drink, we make dough, we throw together a great meal.
It is. You just have to be Italian. It's like you go. I think if you're in any Italian family, it's probably like, I imagine that's a way of life. It's like Saturdays we go to Nonna's, we make the
Yeah.
dough, we make the pasta for the week. I'm gonna get canceled for doing an Italian accent, I think. But
Oh God, whatever. I could have went with wontons or those little bun rolls.
oh yeah, don't do the Asian impersonation.
Oh yeah, exactly. You're gonna get smooth. Like Bruce Lee's gonna come in and be like, "I do not think you're nice," and then he's gonna hurt my feelings because I love Bruce Lee. I want to be water, my friend. But
You don't
I'm a
have to
big
be Bruce Lee to be water.
no. I like I'm just admiring him as a person. I really like the way he went about his things and his growth as a human being. I think that it was a valid impression that he left, and his idea of the Jeet Kune Do is a beautiful example of taking like old adages and developing them in a new way, because it's kind of like religion, martial arts, and the way of life all in one. He like took kung fu, the Tao, and the Bible and smashed them all into one thing, and I was like, hey, like this is a good way to go about life through martial arts. It's a really unique perspective on it. I really, yeah, I'm a big fan of that
I didn't
art
know that.
form.
I thought he just kicked ass.
Oh, his theory behind it was like, he used martial arts to explain it. I came here and he knew like kung fu, right? And that's what he knew. But then he learned American boxing, and Chuck Norris taught him a roundhouse, and he started to learn all these different techniques,
If you had taught Bruce Lee something, like you could legitimately say that. Wow.
right?
I mean,
And I earned it. Take me now. But like, he was so cool that he understood that I could take this situation and I can apply it to this form, and it makes me a better fighter. It makes me a better in this area of what I'm trying to achieve. So he learns the roundhouse, he learns the hook, he learns all these things, and he continued to combine them and be like water. Like, so he adapted to the you see the teapot, be the teapot, and he became and adapted to his situations. So he had all these tools in the belt so that whatever situation he could adapt to it. And that was kind of his theory about going through life, was like, be fluid, be water, be able to adapt to your situations, always learning, taking what is around you and putting it to use, and those type of things. But he teaches you through martial arts, which is a base in like Wing Chun, Kung Fu, American kickboxing, those type of things.
Cool. I did not know that. Okay, I've got a couple random questions for you, but very important questions. Metaphysical, metaphorical questions. Are there more doors or wheels in the world? And that's counting doors like cupboards, car doors, house doors.
Yeah. I mean, and are we counting like the car like places that are just like dead cars where they have like lots and lots and lots and lots of
Yeah,
cars
every door in the world.
every
or
wheel,
every
even
every
like Hot
wheel.
Wheels, like in like toy
The door
wheels.
opens.
Okay.
And also, or
Wheel
wheels.
to wheel.
Or are there more wheels? And any kind of wheel.
Well, yeah. See, then I'd say wheels. I would say that the wheel is more important than the door. And
Are there more of them?
yeah, because you think about it, like little Hot Wheels, there's 4 wheels on that type of bitch.
And probably 4 doors.
Are you talking now? Do those doors open? Like,
No, but I mean, there's not more Hot Wheels in the world than there are cars.
well, I'm just talking about Hot Wheels. There's other instances.
Why are we talking about Hot Wheels?
Because of wheels. How many wheels are there? Like you got all the other
But that's
toy
a very specific brand, like one brand of toy car.
Yeah, well, it's cool. People collect them. You think about how many wheels.
Yeah, no, but like think
like
about
wheels.
cars, like actual big cars. Like
Yeah.
there's way more of those.
That's a different wheel, though. We're talking about wheels.
4 doors. Some of them have 5 doors. Some of them have probably 10 doors.
But they got 4 wheels most of the time.
Yeah.
And a fucking motorcycle has no doors but 2 wheels.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah. You got ATVs, all these different examples.
How many wheels does your kitchen have?
Well, I actually have at least 4, because I have a little stool that rolls around.
Okay, and how many doors do you have?
Probably about 20.
Yeah, that's a lot. And
yeah.
It's just your place. Everybody else's place, they got way more doors and wheels.
Yeah, but there's excessive amounts of extra wheels, like I said, than there are. Like, there's so many houses, but how many like toy cars are
Capitalism will
there?
fail because we've produced too many wheels.
Well, it depends on what the wheels are made of now. Now we just said wheels, like rubber wheels, like car tires, like that's different. If it's tires, then I think your answer would be completely different. I think then I'd go with doors.
Hmm.
You just
Interesting.
said
You're,
wheels.
you're on team wheels, huh?
Well, if it's just wheels, like you're talking about like horse-drawn
Yeah,
carriage
yeah,
wheels,
wheels.
yeah, like yeah, then wheels, man. There's so many fucking wheels. The wheels on the bus go round and round. Like one bus, so one door on a bus, how many fucking wheels?
Right now, I see 0 wheels in my line of vision, and I see like 5 doors. So
Yeah. It's just, perspective, man. Like, where's your perspective at? Like, if your perspective is on a room that has one door and then there's like 3 million fucking Hot Wheels in there,
think
well,
about how
one
many doors
door.
every hotel has. Like
Yeah,
these hotels that have 400 doors.
I bet you there's more Hot Wheel wheels than there are doors in
God
the
damn it
world.
with the Hot Wheels, man! Like, Jesus, are you sponsored? Are you like plugging Hot Wheels right now?
No, I wish, but I am open to the opportunity if they would look into me.
Yeah,
Ribo, catch me out on the social.
yeah. Get tagged. All right, number 2. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
I'm on team sandwich. Yes. I got bread in there. I also go with like things in tortillas being sandwiches.
Ooh, that's murky. That's murky.
Yeah, I know. I get a little weird. Like pita bread, pita sandwich.
Yeah, is a wrap a sandwich?
Exactly. That's why I tortilla things. Sandwich. A burrito, sandwich. Soft taco, sandwich.
Ooh. So then sandwich is anything. Sandwich is
Between
life.
I think there is an actual thing that says that.
Yeah. There's
No.
probably a sign that says it on some stupid ass diner.
If not, that should be the opening slogan for the podcast when you get somebody else. Sandwich is life.
Sandwich is life. They're like, what's it mean? Nobody knows.
Yeah, and you watch this and you'll understand.
Yep, I'm on board.
But yeah, I think sandwich with the bread, the condiments, I guess it's like a carb or some sort of like dry outer casing that makes it a sandwich for me.
Okay. Fair. I'm on board with you too there. What TV show are you watching right
now? Oh, which one are we watching right now? We watched quite a few. We're on the 911s, Austin and LA. We watched those.
Really?
Yeah. Like
what about the Dallas one?
That's the Austin one.
Oh,
Austin.
Where there's the ice storm.
Yeah.
And that shit looked cheesy as fuck.
Oh, dude, that show is completely cheese balls. But
I see it, I'm like, what?
Yeah, we watch a lot of, me and my wife. It's kind of our time when she gets home. Is we just kind of watch shows, and sometimes we watch completely knowingly mundane stuff just to, kill time and be together before she goes to bed. She gets home late. She eats dinner, and she's got to go to bed so she can get up in the morning. And now we've got a dog, and that means we got to wake up at like 6 and do training and then take care of things. And so it changes, so that's just part of our schedule though. Like a lot of shows, good shows though. This Is Us. I love Randall, Team Randall. Randall Pearson is
the first 2 seasons. I haven't caught up with it.
Oh, it's fantastic. It is what it is. I feel like it's like the modern Wonder Years, man. It's like the family that is it's the family show, and it's like the pinnacle of them. They do a fantastic job.
Like Seventh Heaven was kind of like that feel good.
It grew up. Seventh Heaven grew up and became this show.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a good one. I used to watch that with my mom.
Yeah.
All right. What do you judge people for most often?
Ooh. Admission of something I do not like about myself. So
yeah, I didn't warn you, but this is actually therapy.
No, yeah, it's serious. What I don't like about other people, lack of integrity and just being authentic, being who you are. If you're going to be the person that's crazy and walks around stealing from people and stabbing people, just be that person. Don't hide it. Just be that person. And I will let you be. I will be like, cool, I'll steer clear of you because I see you.
Stuff. I mean, we don't need them to be that person.
Yeah. It's more of like an extreme idea. But like, if you want to be the person that creates havoc around them, cool, we'll create like a shirt or like a slogan, and you can eat that and wear it all of the time and do what you want with it. And I want to be this person. Like, I obviously broadcast with you, and I'm authentically myself when I'm on here. I'm not promoting anyone else. I'm not here for any personal
Except for
gain.
Hot Wheels.
Yeah, not yet, but sign me and I'll probably tell people not to buy your products. But so you know, uh I look at it like, being authentic and that stuff. When people aren't, I am not a fan. I think it does detrimental harm to people on a mental, emotional, physical, on every level. Like, when people are not authentic, it hurts people, because then you're not aware to make a conscious decision, properly informed about something.
Mhm.
Because nobody wants to be authentic about it. No one wants to say, hey, this is what the situation is. And there's like climate change. Well, no, there's fucking 13 different stories. There's always 13 different stories, because no one can just be authentic about the scenario and be like, yeah, this is what's happening. I don't lose any money because of it, or I make money because of it. Like the war and like America's role in it. It's like, look, how many times do we have to fucking find out that America financially profited by selling weapons to an opposing a country, and act like it's not some sort of profit game? That's a decision being made.
That was a long way to go from what do you judge people more off for most often. We got
I
back
do
into the
that.
politics.
I never stop. I'm a horrible
Okay.
person.
Okay. For me, it was a lot less deep. For me, it's driving. Whenever I'm driving around, I'm like, oh, you stupid dog. Like, will you hurry up? Like, nobody's ever driving fast enough, and some people driving too fast. Yeah. What is the best compliment you've ever received? Or put another way, what is the compliment you would like to receive most?
I'm proud of you.
Just generally, or like in a specific, like, I'm proud of you for this?
Just anything that, when people are proud of me, of all areas, I appreciate it, because it, um, typically is going to come when, you've done something that's an achievement that usually aspires to their better nature. Especially when it's like someone that doesn't know you. Like, you sit there and you're telling somebody about something, and you tell them you're a compliment, and they're like, "Oh, I'm really proud of you for, being able to accomplish that, or make that achievement." And I feel that it is an authentic, statement. It's something that really, really kind of hits me on the strings. So I like it when people are proud of me.
That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that hits at a very like ancient need that we have, from our desire for strong social bonds. Like, if somebody in your tribe is proud of you, then they're gonna take care of you. For me, like, I remember was talking to a guy from the South. I don't remember who it was or where he was from, but I remember he had a Southern accent. And when we were hanging up, we were like ending the conversation. We had a good talk. It was about business and stuff. And he's like, "Hey, I appreciate you." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, man." And I didn't say it like that, but that's what I thought. And then I've tried to actually say that in a lot of my conversations. I'd end it that way, say, "I appreciate you," and I think it was like, wow, it's like, I'm not saying I appreciate this thing that you did, or I appreciate, the help or whatever. It's like, I appreciate you, like, as a person. It's like, that's a nice compliment.
I think I use aloha in that matter, after living in Hawaii and understanding what, the meaning of that means, and the holistic idea of it.
Mhm.
How it's hello and goodbye. I love you. And it just carries a whole nuance to it that I really appreciate. So I think I adopted that. I'm not trying to like culturally appropriate or anything. I just think it's a very nice way to greet people. And it's very simple, and it's easy. You don't have to think about it too much. So people with low literary or language barriers, you could say aloha, and most people are gonna be like, "Oh, hello and goodbye." They're gonna understand it. It really kind of spreads.
Yeah. What is the most recent moment of joy that you've had?
Getting this new dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. Julie's friend is moving to Oregon. They couldn't take the dog with them. They didn't want it to go to the Humane Society because of the high euthanizing rate. And we went over to meet her, instantly fell in love. Gonna hate the decision, I'm sure, for like 1,000 different reasons, but absolutely worth every minute. She's gorgeous. It's gonna be a long road at a year and a half. A Siberian albino Siberian husky that has very little training that's necessary, like still like was pee padding it, so it thinks it can use to go to the bathroom inside because the pads are inside, which I think is just a bad way to go about things. If you're thinking about it, don't do it. But breaking her of that, and then she's a husky, she's got so much attitude. If you're not like doing what they want or taking them out like 5 times a day, you're going to have consequences until you can establish some sort of border. And we're going to have so
well,
I'm proud of it.
Productive if she doesn't get enough exercise.
Yeah. I'm proud of like what we've accomplished in the 48 hours. Like she's, acknowledged, we've got a bond, and she's just lovable. So I'm really happy about that.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I feel like for most of us, or for at least for many of us, like we kind of need that animal component to our lives, like we love our human companions, and our friends and our family members. But at the same time, there's also something just like eminently reassuring and comforting about having a pet that just loves you unconditionally, like a dog. Not so much a cat. Cats are fine. But, dogs just like every day will be so happy to see you as if it was the first time.
Yeah. They dog people, cat people. There is for each of us. And, when I was a kid, I wanted to do like, I wanted to own a zoo. Ryan wanted to own a zoo. That would have been legit. Oh, dude, I love animals, man. Wolves, like I like dogs, but like wolves like intrigue me. I like bees. I like insects. I like nature, man. Like I really do. Like if I could, just
why don't you be a druid?
If I could, man, that's exactly what I really, when I play D&D, I really find kindred like relations with the druid character for that reason, because I really do. I like the earth, its synchronicity, its depth, and its ability to always amaze me is limitless. And I really, if I could devote my time, to something, I would choose to devote it to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a worthy cause, like I don't get how some people aren't into like spending time in nature or appreciating nature. It's like, even if you don't, want to go out and hike, or like go backpacking and see all the crazy stuff, you want to do a drive by through Yellowstone, sure, whatever, but like at least have an appreciation for it.
It's insane. Like if we were to harness the power of the sun and it take 100 by 100 square mile place stack of solar panels, and we could power the United States without a problem. We just take 100 by 100 square mile piece of freaking Dakota, whatever, and say, so you probably have to do it in the south.
Would that be all we would need?
Yeah, Elon did the numbers and ran it and has an example: 100 square mile by 100 square mile square of solar panels somewhere down in like northern Texas, Arizona, somewhere where it doesn't matter. And we would be able to, well, I think it would actually help, if done right from a environment way too, but we'll explain that if we want to. But no, I think, that's all it would take to power the United States. And, making that decision again, well, then now you got solar power, and it's good that technology is going to advance and become way more sustainable. It won't be like gas where, oh, we can control the price. It's going to be like, no, here's a nano chip, or this is a new paint that you just paint on your house and it powers your house, and then you sell electricity back to the grid. And now you have a profitable, it changes the system. And I think that's another thing that leads to me feeling about the Venus Project. Technology is almost going to force us. It's going to be too easy. Like that paint already exists. They're just developing it in a fashion that is marketable and more energy efficient. That technology exists right now. It's just a solar paint. You paint the stuff on there and it absorbs and transfers the energy for you. And it's a film. I just watched a thing on it the other day just because I like technology, so I watched some of the feeds. But it's just a film, super lightweight. You can put it on. They're going to put it on like the wings of drones so that they can continuously just fly around.
Oh, that's what we need, is 24-hour drones flying over our heads.
Well, they're going to use it to help with internet and connectivity and things like that, which is how they're going to sell
Spying
you
on
on it.
us.
Yeah, well, yeah, they sell you on one thing and then they, as the powers that be currently, use it in another way. But if you're in a transparent, open system, you get those advantages because internet's dope. That's why we buy it because it's got all these advantages. But if you were transparent about it, like, okay, well, and we're also going to use it for everyone to be able to find loved ones, Amber Alerts, all that spy technology. Like if that was just all open, the access to that technology that we don't have access to right now, think of how much that advances. And then you open source it. So people with different ideas and opinions and avenues can manipulate it for the good. And if you have that drive, yeah, bad things are going to spur off, kind of like the timeline in Doctor Strange. Sometimes there's a rogue little one that ferries off, got to grab that shit like Loki. But
So many references. That was like a reference pinball, just bing, 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 bing.
I've been writing a lot of hip hop and different stuff lately. I get crazy. But so yeah, it's interesting how it really all ends up coming back to the same thing. It's like it all comes back to the same story on some microcosm or macrocosm of, not having a system that prioritizes humanity as a species on an environment and working sustainably with it, as opposed to profiting off of it.
Well, we may never get there. We may have just always be constrained by our demons. Okay, so we've been doing this for a little over an hour now. Let's finish off with giving you one last thing to plug or share that you want to say. Let's take 1 minute. If you have a company you want to plug or something, some social cause.
All right. Well, I'm going to take this time now for a service announcement. I have a company that is in the infancy of its birth right now. We're, a couple weeks away from delivery, and it's called Rise CBD, RYE''S CBD. Websites in development, like we are so infantile, but we do topical balm at the moment. We'll be moving into other topical CBD balm. We'll be moving into other topical products with a focus on natural ingredients that are time tested, Mother Nature approved, tag TM that. And then
I think that's already been taken. I think somebody else already did that one.
I looked it up. I hadn't seen it.
Never mind.
But I may be wrong because I often am. Don't think I'm
Anyway.
I am not who you should get your opinion from.
Anyway, so Rise.
Yeah, and it's a CBD company. We're going to do topical products, starting with a balm, moving into a deodorant, some other options, and then hopefully into Rise and Shine CBD sugars and simple syrups for your coffee shops, your tea shops, and some other options. Well, cocktails, but also a bakery, using it to flavor cupcakes, do whipped
And does that have
creams.
CBD?
Yeah.
Oh.
So you can dose and flavor your cupcakes and your cakes. When you do your layer cakes, you douse them in simple syrup, and then you can use it to, my thought process is about helping the elderly and being able to sell them, because they're so misinformed on what CBD is. They have that like cognitive dissonance about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it could help get them off the pharmaceutical drugs and pare them down, not all the way off, but it could, working with the CBD, the way it enhances your body, would vastly affect most of these people and drop their pharmaceutical intake. So I'd like to be able to sell it to them. And I feel like if you go in there, you give them a little expose on the endocannabinoid system, what CBD has been proven to do. And then you say, instead of taking these pills, you eat that cupcake. And then I can go to a bakery and sell them my syrup and be like, you get it from this bakery.
Yeah.
And then that local bakery right around that retirement home gets some consistent business. The retirement home knows about my brand, can, outsource that way. And I'm just going to try to run it that way. My last company, they were like, we're giving 10% to the veterans, we're doing this, and things didn't operate in a keen manner. And it wasn't necessarily as beneficial for the communities I felt like we were going to. Okay. So I feel if I build the marketing and the structure of some of the foundation work before I hopefully get into Whole Foods, pump that shit. All of our ingredients are natural, GMO free, and grown in Colorado hemp, and we're Happy Bunny certified. So we meet all the standards for a Whole Foods.
Do you have a
Um,
website or social media?
we're going to be purchased, like I said, that's in development. We'll have that here in the next few weeks, and social media will come out once I have that, because I don't want to push those too early for people. Then they're gonna be like, where's the website? So I want to make sure that those roll out simultaneously, but they are to be in development. And we're looking forward to providing education, community, and safe, effective products that come from a history of effectiveness, and working together, they create an entourage effect that can really help you and your family and your loved ones out.
Okay. That's a good elevator pitch. I like that. Sounds good. So looking forward to hearing more about that in future episodes, I'm sure. For now, we're going to call that an episode. Ryan, thank you for joining me. Had a good time, had a good conversation.
Yeah.
And
Always, my friend. This is always a blast. I look forward to it when you get a hold of me. I literally set aside time like a weird kid looking for his candy. So, I'm a fat kid. I love cake too,
we all are.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
All right. Thanks for being my cake. Take care.
Yeah.